Bola woke up early every morning, long before the sun painted the sky with gold. The town was just beginning to stir. Shopkeepers were opening their stalls, the clatter of carts rolling down the dusty streets filled the air, and the smell of fresh bread mixed with the smoke of cooking fires. Bola sat on the cold stone near the marketplace, his old blanket wrapped around him, hoping someone would notice him. He held out a small worn tin cup, but most people walked past without even a glance. Sometimes a coin dropped, sometimes nothing at all. He knew that life for someone like him was never easy. Despite the harshness of his life, Bola had a kind heart. He shared his meager meals with the stray dogs that followed him wherever he went, and even with the little birds that pecked at crumbs near the market stalls. Many people saw him and thought he was weak, but Bola believed in kindness. He often whispered to himself, "One day someone will see me. One day I will have enough to live without begging." The people of the town were used to seeing him. Some felt pity, some annoyance, and others curiosity. Children often ran up to him asking for small stories or a joke to make them laugh. Bola would smile at them, telling stories of imaginary adventures where he was a brave hero, even if only in his mind. These small moments were the bright spots in his life. They reminded him that even when the world seemed harsh, there could be tiny sparks of happiness. Every morning, Bola walked through the streets with careful steps, always aware of the way people moved around him. He learned to notice the ones who had kind hearts. There was a woman who ran a small vegetable stall who always gave him leftover vegetables. A baker sometimes dropped a small loaf for him when he thought no one was watching. These gestures, though small, gave him hope. Bola often sat by the side of the road eating his simple breakfast, thinking about how life could be better. Bola had not always been poor. He remembered his childhood, though it was faint in his memory. There had been a small house with a garden, a warm meal every day, and laughter around a table. But life had changed suddenly. A sickness had taken his parents, leaving him alone at a young age. He tried to work, but he was young and jobs were scarce. Slowly the town became his home, and the streets became the place he had to survive. Yet even with all the loss, Bola did not lose his spirit. He walked with his head held high, even if his clothes were torn and his shoes were worn through. On one particular morning, Bola found a coin in the dust near the market. It was small, barely enough for a single meal, but he smiled. He picked it up carefully, knowing that even small things mattered. He looked at the people around him, children chasing each other, a mother carrying a bundle of laundry, a man laughing with friends over breakfast, and he felt a pang of longing. He wanted to be part of that world, to have a home and a warm bed. But he also knew he had to survive each day before thinking about tomorrow. Bola had his little routines. He would walk to the fountain to drink water, carefully avoiding the rougher children who sometimes threw stones at him. He would sweep the small space where he sat, keeping it tidy even if it meant extra work. People often underestimated him because he was poor, but Bola was smart. He watched the patterns of the market, noticed when someone was in a hurry, and learned which streets were safest during the busiest hours. Knowledge was something he had even if he did not have money. Though many ignored him, some noticed his kindness. One day a little girl dropped her doll near him. Instead of keeping it, Bola picked it up and ran after her to return it. The girl's mother smiled and thanked him, giving him a small piece of bread. Bola's heart warmed and he thought to himself, "This is why I keep trying. This is why I am kind." Even though he did not have much, he knew he could still make a small difference in the lives of others. Bola often imagined a better life in his mind. He would sit quietly on the edge of the market and dream about a small home with a garden, a place where he could grow vegetables and maybe even adopt a stray dog or two. He pictured a table with food every day, children playing in the yard, and laughter filling the air. Though it was only a dream, it gave him hope, and hope was what kept him going. As the sun rose higher, the market became busy. Bola moved carefully among the people, holding his tin cup in case someone noticed him. He greeted those who looked at him, even if they only nodded politely. Kindness, he thought, never hurt anyone. He smiled at a small boy who dropped a coin near him. "Thank you, little one," Bola whispered. The boy waved and ran back to his mother, happy to see that his small gesture mattered. Bola's life was hard, but he had learned to find small joys in each day. The laughter of children, the smell of fresh bread, the warmth of the sun on his face, all these things were treasures. He had no house, no bed, no family, but he had hope, and hope was powerful. It reminded him that life was not just about survival but also about holding on to kindness and dreaming of a better future. As evening approached, Bola would find a quiet corner to rest. He would lay his head on his small blanket, listening to the sounds of the town settling down. The chatter of people returning home, the distant laughter, the calls of street vendors packing up for the day, all these sounds were a lullaby of the town. Bola closed his eyes and whispered, "Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow I will find my luck." Though the days were long and hard, Bola never gave up. He knew that life was full of challenges, but he also knew that one act of kindness could change everything. He remembered the small gestures he had received and believed that someone someday would see him not just as a beggar but as a person with dreams and hope. Every night, Bola fell asleep thinking of the people he had helped, the animals he had fed, and the moments that made him smile. Even when hunger and cold made him ache, he held on to the belief that life could improve. He understood that his journey was not just about receiving but also about giving, even when it was hard. Bola's story in the town was quiet. Many people overlooked him, many judged him, and many ignored him. Yet, in his heart, Bola carried a spark that no one could take away. It was the spark of hope, kindness, and dreams. He believed that one day the world would notice him and all his small acts of goodness would be rewarded. Until that day he would keep walking, sharing, dreaming, and smiling. And so, Bola sat on the edge of the bustling market, his tin cup in hand, sharing a small smile with a passing child, and looking at the horizon with quiet hope. Life was difficult, but he knew he had the strength to face it. And deep inside he believed that tomorrow somehow things would be different. The sun was high in the sky, spilling golden light across the busy town. Bola was walking slowly through the marketplace, carrying his small tin cup, hoping for coins or maybe a scrap of bread. He had already visited the fountain and sat near the vegetable stall, but today the town seemed even busier than usual. Merchants shouted about their goods, children ran through the narrow streets laughing, and carts rolled over the uneven stones. Bola walked carefully, trying not to get jostled by the crowd. He moved quietly, almost like he wanted to disappear into the noise of the marketplace. As Bola paused near a fruit stall, he noticed a woman standing nearby. She was dressed in fine clothes that shone in the sunlight, and her jewelry sparkled with every small movement. She had a gentle smile, but there was something sharp in her eyes, something that made her look as if she always knew exactly what to do to get what she wanted. Her name was EKAETTE, and she was well known in the town for her wealth. Some people admired her, some feared her, and some whispered behind her back, saying she was clever and sometimes unkind. EKAETTE watched Bola for a few moments, pretending to be interested in the oranges at the stall. Then she stepped closer to him, her smile widening. "Hello there, young man," she said softly. Her voice was smooth and it seemed to carry warmth, the kind of warmth that could make someone let down their guard. Bola looked up at her, a little startled. He wasn't used to anyone speaking to him so kindly. Most people only looked away or pushed past him, but EKAETTE's smile was different. It made him feel seen, like he mattered. "Hello, madam," Bola replied quietly, bowing his head slightly. He was cautious but polite. He had learned to be careful with strangers, but something about EKAETTE made him feel hopeful. He wondered if she might actually be someone who could help him. "I have been watching you," EKAETTE said, tilting her head and studying him carefully. "I see how hard you work, how kind you are, even when life has been cruel to you. You deserve a better life. Don't you wish you could live in a place where you don't have to beg, where you can sleep on a soft bed and have enough to eat every day?" Bola felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had thought these thoughts often, imagining a life where hunger was not a daily companion and cold nights did not bite his bones. "Yes, madam," he whispered. "I wish for that every day." EKAETTE smiled wider, and her eyes seemed to shine. "I can help you," she said. "I can show you a way to change your life. You just have to trust me." She reached out her hand as if offering him something precious, and Bola hesitated for a moment. He had learned to be cautious, to watch people carefully before believing them, but the hope in her words was strong. He had dreamed of someone noticing him, someone offering a way out, for so long that it made him feel dizzy with excitement. Bola took a small step forward. "Are you really kind, madam? Will you really help me?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. He wanted to believe her, more than he wanted anything else in the world. EKAETTE's smile did not falter. "Of course, dear boy," she said. "But first we need to make a plan. I can teach you how to earn more, how to have a steady life, and eventually how to leave the street behind forever. You will have more than you have ever dreamed of." Bola felt a shiver of hope run through him. He imagined waking up in a clean house, eating warm meals, and feeling safe. The thought made his heart race. He nodded quickly. I will do whatever you say. I want to learn. I want to live a better life." EKAETTE's smile grew and she patted his shoulder lightly. "That's good. You are smart and brave. It is rare to find someone with a heart like yours. People often forget to care about others, but you are special. Bola blushed, feeling a mixture of pride and disbelief. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. The townspeople nearby noticed the interaction. Some whispered to each other. "That's EKAETTE," one woman said softly. "She looks kind, but they say she can be tricky. Be careful." But Bola did not hear them. He only heard EKAETTE's words and felt the spark of hope in his chest. For once, someone seemed to believe in him. EKAETTE continued to speak, explaining a plan that sounded so simple and clear. She would help Bola save money, find small work, and eventually get a place to live. She spoke with confidence, and Bola found himself imagining a future where he no longer had to beg or sleep on cold stones. The more she talked, the more his heart lifted, like a bird taking flight. As the day went on, Bola followed her advice, gathering the little coins he could find and handing them to her as a promise that he would trust her. He felt nervous but excited. It felt strange to think someone was taking an interest in him, guiding him like a teacher or a guardian. He had never known anyone to look at him in this way. Every kind word from EKAETTE made him feel as if he could finally leave his hard life behind. Even the small people around the market seemed different to him that day. The children playing, the vendors shouting, and the women haggling over prices all blurred into the background. Bola focused only on EKAETTE. She became a symbol of hope, the bridge between his life on the street and the life he dreamed of. He imagined telling his story one day, telling everyone how EKAETTE had seen him when no one else did, how she had believed he could rise above his circumstances. EKAETTE watched him carefully, noting the trust and excitement in his eyes. She had a plan, and Bola's innocence made him perfect for it. She continued to give him instructions, making everything sound simple and safe. Bola followed her eagerly, imagining each step as a small piece of the life he had longed for. Each coin he handed over felt like a seed planted in the soil of his new future. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Bola felt tired but happy. He had never felt so hopeful in his life. He imagined sleeping in a warm bed that night, dreaming of a home where he would never be hungry again. His heart felt light, and he even hummed softly as he walked through the streets, carrying his tin cup. For the first time in a long time, Bola believed that tomorrow could be different, brighter, and full of opportunity. Even as the town began to quiet down, Bola's mind was full of dreams. He thought of the life EKAETTE had promised him, the life where he could finally feel safe, respected, and cared for. He believed in her completely, not noticing the faint glint of something sharp in her eyes or the clever ways she measured each word to manipulate him. Bola only saw hope, and hope had become his guiding light. That evening, Bola sat on his small blanket, counting the coins he had been able to gather. He looked at them carefully, imagining how they would grow into something bigger, something real with EKAETTE's help. He felt proud of himself, as if he had already started the journey to a better life. His heart was full of dreams and his mind full of possibilities. As darkness fell over the town, Bola whispered to himself, "Maybe tomorrow my life will change. Maybe someone will finally help me." And though the stars began to shine above, he believed in the warm promise of EKAETTE's words, the gentle smile that had filled him with hope, and the feeling that at last someone had noticed him. The next morning, Bola woke up with a hopeful feeling in his chest. The sun was warm and the air smelled of fresh bread from the bakeries. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes and stretching his tired body. For the first time in a long while, he felt excited about the day. He remembered EKAETTE's promises of a better life, a clean place to sleep, and a future where he would never need to beg again. These thoughts brought a smile to his face. He whispered to himself, "Today will be different." When he reached the market, he looked around for EKAETTE. He wondered where she would be standing, what she would say, and what new instructions she would give him. He walked through the busy stalls, waving politely to people he knew. Even the stray dogs wagged their tails as he passed by. Bola's steps felt lighter than usual. He believed he was walking toward a new beginning. After a few minutes, he spotted EKAETTE standing beside a stall full of colorful fabrics. She was dressed in bright clothes again, with jewelry shining on her wrists and neck. She smiled when she saw him, and Bola felt a warm rush of relief. "Good morning, Bola," she said sweetly. "You came early. That's a good sign. It means you are ready to work toward your new life." Bola nodded eagerly. "Yes, madam. I want to do everything right." EKAETTE looked at him for a moment, then leaned in closer as if she was sharing a secret. "To begin," she said softly, "you will need to trust me with your savings. All of it. Every coin you have." Bola froze. His hand instinctively rested on the small cloth bag tied inside his shirt. His savings were tiny, Only a few coins he had collected over many long months. They were precious to him because they represented hope. He had saved them for emergencies, for cold nights, or in case he became sick. Giving them away felt scary. EKAETTE noticed his hesitation. She tilted her head and spoke in a gentle voice. Bola, you want a better life, right? You want to leave the streets, sleep in a bed, and eat real meals. Yes, madam, Bola whispered. Then you must trust me, she said smoothly. I will invest your coins. They will grow. Soon you will have much more than this. But you cannot rise unless you take the first step. Bola looked down at his worn shoes. He felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. Part of him wanted to keep his savings safe. Another part, the bigger part, wanted to believe that EKAETTE truly cared. She looked confident, calm, and sure of herself. She spoke like someone who understood life better than he did. He took a deep breath and reached slowly into his shirt. He untied the small cloth bag, holding it tightly in his hand. His heart beat faster. Are you sure this is good? He asked. EKAETTE smiled, placing her hand gently over his. Of course. I want to see you happy. I want you to succeed. Trust me, Bola. This is for your future. Her gentle tone melted the fear inside him. Bola nodded slowly and placed the little bag into her hand. She closed her fingers around it quickly, almost too quickly, but Bola did not notice. His eyes were filled with hope. Good boy, she said softly. You will not regret this. Come back tomorrow and I will show you how much your money has grown. Bola felt a wave of excitement. He imagined her returning the bag to him, heavier with coins, maybe even full of notes. He imagined buying shoes, clean clothes, even a place to sleep. His heart soared at the thought of finally escaping his old life. EKAETTE slipped the small bag into her purse with a calm smile. Then she patted his shoulder and walked away, disappearing into the crowd with graceful steps. Bola watched her go, feeling proud of himself. He believed he had just taken the first real step toward changing his life. For the rest of the day, Bola worked harder than usual. He greeted people with extra kindness. He helped a woman carry her basket. He kept the stray dogs company. Even though he didn't have his savings anymore, he felt lighter, because he believed his future was safe in EKAETTE's hands. When night came, he lay on his blanket under the stars, imagining how tomorrow would look. Maybe EKAETTE would smile and say, Bola, look how your money has grown. He fell asleep with a hopeful sigh. The next morning, Bola woke up earlier than usual. He rushed toward the marketplace, eager to meet EKAETTE. He stood near the fabric stall where he had seen her yesterday, waiting patiently. Minutes passed, then an hour, then two. But EKAETTE did not come. Bola tried not to worry. He told himself she was simply running late. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she was preparing something special for him. He waited until the sun was high, but she never appeared. Eventually, he walked home feeling a small knot of fear forming in his stomach. The next day he returned again. And again she was nowhere. He asked the fabric seller, Have you seen the woman from yesterday? The rich woman with jewelry? The seller shook his head. No, boy. She comes and goes. Sometimes she disappears for days. Sometimes weeks. Bola's heart dropped. He felt a cold wave wash over him. Still, he tried to convince himself that nothing was wrong. He returned the day after and the day after that. But EKAETTE never came back. Slowly, the truth began to settle inside him like a heavy stone. EKAETTE had taken his little savings, his months of hard work, his quiet hopes, his belief in a better life, and she was gone. She had tricked him. She had smiled at him, spoken sweet words, and taken advantage of his trust. Bola sat alone near the fountain, staring at the water. His chest felt tight, and his heart ached in a way he had never felt before. He whispered, Why did she do this? I just wanted a chance. He remembered her words, her soft voice, her warm smile. All lies. Every promise had been false. Every kind word had been a trap. He felt foolish, embarrassed, and heartbroken. For days, Bola struggled to accept what had happened. He felt as though the world had played a cruel joke on him. He had trusted someone, truly trusted them for the first time in years, and they had left him worse than before. Not only was he poor again, but he had lost the one thing that kept him strong: hope. Now he felt empty, as though someone had reached inside him and stolen the small flame he carried. Even the children noticed the change in him. Bola, why are you sad? One of them asked. Bola forced a small smile, but inside he was breaking. He realized that trust was dangerous. Hope was dangerous. He had opened his heart, and it had been crushed. Days passed, and Bola continued to struggle. He moved slower, spoke softer, and his eyes lost their brightness. He tried to find comfort in the small things again, but everything reminded him of what he had lost. not just money but faith. For the first time, Bola understood what it felt like to be truly broken. Bola walked through the familiar streets with heavy steps. The sun was bright, the market was loud, and people moved quickly around him, but everything felt different to him now. The world looked harder, colder, and much more unkind than before. He had always known life was difficult, but the pain of betrayal changed something inside him. It was not just his savings he had lost. It was trust. It was hope. It was the small light inside his heart that made him believe tomorrow might be better. He sat under the shade of a wooden stall and watched the people pass by. Some smiled, some argued, some laughed, some hurried past without even noticing him. Bola felt invisible. 2 days ago he had believed he was on the path to a better life. Now he felt as if he had fallen deeper into a dark hole. He rested his chin on his knees and tried not to cry. The tears gathered, but he blinked them away quickly. He did not want others to see his weakness. As he sat there, he thought over everything that had happened. He remembered EKAETTE's gentle voice, her warm smile, her soft words. He remembered how she had held his hand and told him she wanted to help him. He remembered how proud he felt when he handed her his little bag of coins, believing he was taking the biggest step of his life. And now he remembered how she disappeared, how she left without a word, how all her promises turned into dust. The memory hurt like a sharp stone pressing into his chest. For a while, Bola let the sadness wash over him. He did not fight it. He let himself feel the pain fully, because pretending he wasn't hurt would only make it worse. But after a long time he took a deep breath. He looked around at the people moving through the market. They were living their lives, facing their own problems, carrying their own burdens. The world had not stopped because he was hurt. Life was still moving forward, and he knew he had to move with it. Slowly Bola stood up. He brushed dust from his clothes and wiped his face. He still felt the ache of betrayal, but he reminded himself of something important. He had survived much worse. He had survived hunger, cold nights, sickness, and loneliness. This was just another struggle. He would learn from it. He would grow stronger. With quiet determination, Bola returned to his usual spots in the market. He did not beg loudly. Instead, he greeted people politely, offering to help them carry baskets or fetch water. Some ignored him, some smiled and thanked him, and a few gave him small coins. They were tiny payments, but they were honest. Every time someone dropped a coin in his tin cup, Bola felt a little piece of himself rebuilding. He remembered the baker who sometimes gave leftovers, so he went to stand near the bakery. The baker looked at him with surprise. "You came early today," the man said. "Everything all right?" Bola forced a small smile. "I'm okay. Just trying to work." The baker nodded and handed him a half loaf of bread. Bola accepted it gratefully and whispered a soft thank you. As he ate the warm bread, he realized something. Even though one person had hurt him deeply, there were still people in the world who were kind, who asked nothing in return, who did small things that made life a little easier. The next day Bola woke up feeling slightly stronger. His heart still held the bruise of betrayal, but it was no longer as sharp. He began to reflect on everything more calmly. He asked himself questions. Why had he trusted so easily? Why didn't he listen to the warnings from the townspeople? Why did he believe promises without proof? He did not blame himself too harshly, but he accepted his mistake. He had been hopeful, maybe too hopeful. He had wanted a better life so much that he ignored the signs. But Bola did not want to become bitter. He did not want to become someone who hated others, someone who could not trust anyone ever again. He knew that not everyone was like EKAETTE. Some people were good. He had seen kindness many times, even if it was small. He still believed in goodness, he just needed to be more careful. Over the next few weeks, Bola built a new routine. He started waking up earlier, sweeping the area where he usually sat, trying to make it neat. He helped merchants set up their stalls in exchange for small coins. He carried heavy baskets for older women. He followed honest work instead of waiting for someone to rescue him. Every little task gave him strength. With each day he felt a little more like himself again. Some merchants began to notice the change in him. "Bola works harder now," one man said. "He doesn't just sit around. He helps." Another woman added, "He's polite. He's humble. He deserves kindness." Slowly, Bola became a familiar, dependable presence in the market. People began to greet him with respect, not pity. Even the children noticed. They started coming to him again, asking for short stories or small jokes. Bola smiled at them warmly. He no longer told heroic fantasy tales. Instead, he told simple stories about resilience, about falling down and getting back up, about trusting wisely, about learning from mistakes. The children listened with wide eyes, and their laughter slowly returned to him like sunlight breaking through clouds. At night, Bola sat alone under the stars thinking about his life. Instead of feeling broken, he began to feel wiser. He realized that pain had taught him lessons he needed to learn. He now understood the world a little better. He knew that promises should be tested, trust should be earned, and hope should be balanced with caution. But he also knew that kindness mattered, that small honest efforts could build a strong future, even if it took time. Bola still wished his life would change someday, but he no longer waited for someone else to make that happen. He worked toward it slowly, step by step. He saved every coin he earned, even if it took weeks to fill the bottom of his tin cup. He set goals for himself. Maybe one day he could rent a small room. Maybe one day he could buy clean clothes. Maybe eventually he could even have a simple job and live without begging. What mattered most was that he did not give up. His heart had been hurt, but it had not been destroyed. The betrayal had shaken him, but it did not stop him from trying again. People saw that strength in him. They saw how he kept going, how he stayed honest, how he helped others even when he had so little. That resilience shone through him like a quiet light. Bola learned that life would always have challenges, but he also learned that he had the power to face them. He discovered that hope did not need to come from someone else. It could grow slowly inside him if he cared for it, protected it, and rebuilt it with patience. So Bola continued, step by step, day by day, slowly becoming stronger than he ever had been before. As time passed, Bola's life slowly began to change, not through luck or sudden miracles, but through the quiet strength he carried inside him. Each new morning brought new challenges, but he faced them with calm patience. He no longer expected others to save him. Instead, he relied on his own effort, his own honesty, and his own growing wisdom. People in the town noticed the change. The market women who once saw him as just another beggar now greeted him with warm smiles. The merchants who used to pass him without a thought now called out his name and trusted him to help with their work. Children ran to him with laughter, pulling his hands, asking for stories. Bola had once been invisible, but now he had become part of the heartbeat of the market. Bola never bragged about his small progress. He never blamed anyone openly for his past pain. He simply lived each day with quiet strength. He understood now that life could be unfair. He understood that people could lie, deceive, and take advantage of the weak. He understood that trusting too easily could lead to heartbreak. But he also understood that bitterness would only make the pain heavier. So he chose a different path. He chose kindness, but a wiser kind of kindness. One that saw the world clearly yet refused to give up hope. Sometimes he thought about EKAETTE. He did not think about her with anger, though the memory of her betrayal would always sting. Instead, he thought about what her choices had done to her own life. After taking his savings, she had left the town for a while, but when she returned, the people no longer welcomed her. They spoke quietly behind her back, saying she could not be trusted. They kept their distance. Her wealth could not buy her respect, and her beauty could not hide her cold heart. She walked through the market often alone, and though she lifted her chin proudly, everyone could see the emptiness in her eyes. Bola sometimes saw her from afar. Their eyes would meet for a brief moment, and then she would look away quickly. She knew what she had done. Bola knew it too. But he did not approach her. He did not ask for his money back. He did not ask for an explanation. He let time deal with her actions. He had learned that some people carried their own punishment inside themselves. EKAETTE's selfishness had isolated her more than any words ever could. Meanwhile, Bola kept moving forward. He continued helping others and saving small coins. His savings grew slowly, like seeds planted in dry ground that still managed to sprout. He never rushed. He never complained. He simply worked and waited. Life, he knew, rewarded patience in unexpected ways. One morning, a kind old man named Okoro called him over. Okoro owned a small repair shop near the edge of the market. He had watched Bola for months, observing his responsibility and gentle nature. "I need help in my shop," Okoro said. "Someone honest, someone steady. Will you work with me?" Bola's heart swelled with gratitude. He nodded eagerly. It was the first real job offer he had ever received. Okoro taught him how to fix broken baskets, mend small tools, and handle customers politely. Bola learned quickly. The work was simple, but it gave him pride. Each repaired item, each satisfied customer felt like a small piece of his life being rebuilt. With time, Bola earned enough to rent a tiny room. It was nothing special, a small space with a thin mattress and a window that stuck when opened, but to Bola, it felt like a palace. He cleaned it carefully, placing his belongings neatly in the corners. That night, he lay on the mattress and stared at the ceiling. He felt warm, safe, and hopeful. For the first time in many years, he had a place he could call his own. Yet even as his life improved, Bola did not forget the lessons he had learned. He still greeted people politely but no longer trusted easily. He still helped others but watched for signs of dishonesty. He treated everyone with respect, whether rich or poor, but he guarded his heart more carefully. His kindness had not disappeared, but it had become stronger because it was now protected by wisdom. The people around him respected him deeply. They saw how he worked without complaint, how he remained humble even as his life improved. They admired his patience, his resilience, and his ability to remain kind despite everything he had suffered. Some even said that Bola had become an example of true strength, quiet, steady, and honest. Whenever young people asked him for advice, he shared his story gently, without bitterness. He told them about the importance of caution, the value of patience, and the power of character. He told them that life might knock them down, but what mattered most was how they rose again. He told them that trust was precious and should be given wisely. And he told them that kindness did not make a person weak, it made them strong. Meanwhile, EKAETTE's life continued in the shadows. She still had money, still wore fine clothes, but she lacked something far more important: respect. People did not want her near their businesses. Parents warned their children to stay away from her. Friends avoided her unless they needed something from her. She grew lonely, though she never admitted it aloud. Sometimes she looked at Bola, seeing how he earned admiration through hard work and integrity, and she wondered what her life could have been if she had chosen differently. But Bola did not dwell on her choices. He focused on building his future. He believed that every person wrote their own story through their actions. He had chosen the path of honesty, and that choice gave him peace. As the years went by, Bola's life became a quiet story of triumph. Not the loud kind with crowds cheering, but the gentle kind that grows stronger with each sunrise. People trusted him. They came to him for help, advice, and repairs. Children grew up knowing him as a steady friend. The market became a brighter place because of his presence. He had once been a poor beggar with no hope, fooled by a woman's false promises. But now he stood tall, not because of wealth or power but because of the strength inside him. His life had taught him that the world could be unfair, but he had also learned that fairness was not the only thing that shaped a person's future. Strength, patience, and integrity created a much deeper foundation, one that could not be stolen, broken, or destroyed by anyone. Bola carried these lessons in his heart every day. His story reminded others that even when life seemed dark, a gentle, patient heart could still shine. His journey showed that wisdom often grew from pain, and that true success came not from what a person gained, but from who they became. And so Bola walked through the market with calm steps, a small smile on his face, and a steady heart full of quiet strength. His past no longer controlled him. His future was his to build. His pain had become wisdom, and his kindness had become his greatest power.